Hey y'all, it's your girl Destiny and I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about a couple of signs to look for that may indicate that you are a people pleaser. And I'm not judging, not even a little bit, because let me tell y'all, these are all signs that I have found in myself because I was a chronic people pleaser and it was really messing up my life. And I really feel like for anybody that is a people pleaser, maybe you don't know it yet, maybe you do know it, that could be the number one thing holding you back from building the life that you want. And I say that because when you are people pleasing, you are spending all your time, energy, effort, money, all of that stuff on other people when you could be investing it into yourself if you set the right boundaries. If you're new to my channel, I talk about all things self-growth here, so if that's something that you're into, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Okay, y'all, so sign number one is going to be having a hard time saying no. Whether it is feeling guilty for saying no, or whether it's worrying that somebody else is going to be mad at you for saying no, or maybe even believing that if you say no to somebody, or if you're not doing everything that somebody wants you to do for them, that they'll abandon you, that they won't be your friend no more, that they won't be your boyfriend anymore, that they won't support you anymore. Whatever the case may be, if you have an issue saying no for whatever reason, and you don't feel like it's okay for you to say no, that could be a clear indication that you are a people pleaser. And I had this really, really bad. And maybe even sometimes you don't want to say no because you feel like you have something to prove. And I'm gonna be real, I've had all of those reasons. I've used all of those reasons as an excuse to not say no when I really didn't want to do something. And it really leaves you feeling drained once you start doing things that you don't want to do just because you don't want to say no for whatever the reason is. And for me, it was like different emotions with different people. So like with my family and I wanted to say no, I tended to feel, more guilty. When it was like my relationship and I would say no, I was probably more so afraid that, my boyfriend would get mad at me or whatever. And granted, like all of this stuff is like, this was all like in my head. Like they weren't actually getting mad at me. There's actually really no reason for me to feel guilty. There was really nothing for me to worry about, but because I'm a people pleaser and like I overthink stuff so much, this is just what I believed in my head. And of course some negative and limiting, like deep rooted beliefs that I have that made me feel like these things were true. Like I would be abandoned, or they would be mad, or I would make them feel bad, when in reality, once you start actually saying no, you kind of realize that it's really not the end of the world. And people who really love you and who really care about you are not going to make you feel bad for saying no anyway. The second sign is going to be having a hard time setting boundaries. And I feel like this kind of goes into like, not wanting to have uncomfortable conversations, or like just wanting other people to be comfortable and, just trying to like avoid confrontation. And I want to say a perfect example of me like not setting a boundary was like when me and my best friend, we would get on the phone every single day for like hours at a time. And I would be like spending so much time on the phone that like I wasn't really spending time like doing stuff that I really wanted to do. And at first I thought that like talking to her about it would maybe like impact our friendship in a negative way, but it did not. Like I told her, I ended up growing the balls to tell her like, hey, between this time and this time I'm gonna be doing this, so we can't be on the phone. Or like, if we get on the phone, I feel like we should be on the phone for like an hour, hour and a half max, and then we need to go on about our day so that we can actually get some stuff done. And she completely understood. So as you can see, like I was spending all of that time doing all of that stuff, overthinking it, worrying about how it would affect our friendship. And when I actually set it out there, it worked out perfectly fine. Because like I said before, when people really love you and care about you, when you set a boundary or when you say no to something, they're not gonna make you feel bad about it. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna support you. They should support you. Or there was even a boundary that I had to set with my boyfriend when like I would like cook dinner every single night, thinking like, oh, I have to cook dinner every single night for my man, da 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 da. And it came to a point where like I was starting to, the thing about people pleasing is that you start to resent people when you do things that you really don't want to do to make them happy. So I'm thinking like I'm doing all of this to make him happy, like, oh yeah, he want me to do this. And then I just told him one day, like, you know what, I'm not cooking no more than 3 times a week. He was like, okay, that's fine with me. I can just cook or I can order food. And I said, oh, it's that simple? Like in my mind, maybe I thought that he was gonna be mad at me, or maybe I thought that he was gonna value me less because I didn't want to cook dinner for him every night. In reality, that was all in my head because like I said before, when you set boundaries, or, you know, when you say no to something, the people who really love and care about you are going to support that. They're not going to make you feel bad about it. So he literally just gave me so much reassurance and was like, yeah, like, you don't even have to do that. Like, you don't have to cook for me every single night. And I'm like, oh, that's just my overthinking. Yeah, it was just me. And the third thing is going to be prioritizing others over yourself. Prioritizing their feelings and their happiness and their comfort over your own. You can't keep doing that. I had to stop doing that. And I feel like even the boundary that I set with my boyfriend is a perfect example of me like doing stuff that I don't really want to do because I think it's making him happier, because I think that, you know, maybe he might get mad if I don't want to do it. And granted, whether or not he got mad at me or not, or whether or not, which he didn't, but whether or not he got mad or whether or not he felt away, that's not really for me to worry about. I can't control how somebody else feels about something. I can only control myself. And if I feel like I don't really want to do something, or if I feel like I'm uncomfortable, or if I feel like I'm unhappy in a certain situation, I have to change that for myself, because I can only control how I feel. How other people react is not in my control. The fourth sign is a tendency to overextend yourself. And I just mean saying yes to way too many things. You can't say yes to everything. Some stuff gotta go. If you overextending yourself and you're not making time for self-care, or you find that you don't have time for fun and hobbies and all those kind of things that kind of pour life into you, then you need to kind of pull back the reins a little bit. Maybe you've overcommitted and you're doing too many things at once. That's not something that you should keep doing. That can really lead into like burnout. And that is not a place where we want to be. And the fifth sign is going to be constantly seeking approval from others. Granted, you know, it's one thing to like, oh, hit your homegirls up and say, hey, what do you think about this outfit? Like, do you think that this is cute? Because, sometimes our eyes ain't, sometimes two pair of eyes are better than one. But there are times where we're making big life decisions, or when we're making, decisions that are going to have a big impact, and we're asking everybody else for their opinion, or we're asking everybody if they think that we're making the right decision. And I've seen something on social media recently where it literally said, if you want to make the right decision, stop asking other people what you should do. You have to answer those questions from inside. You have to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I want to do? What feels right to me? What does my gut say? Stop going and asking everybody else, because they're going to tell you what they would do. And that's them. That's their life. That is not you. That is not what would necessarily make you happy. So you have to stop going to seek approval from others. One perfect example for me, where I actually should have just went with my own first mind, was like going to college and what I decided to major in. I was in a major that I was actually having a lot of fun in. I was talking to my mom about it, and she was just asking me, about like how much money it makes. And granted, I love my mom. She's top tier. And, it wasn't coming from a bad place when it comes about, going to college, picking up this debt. Like, okay, well, what is this career going to make you money when you graduate? Naturally, that's something that parents are looking for security for their children. Like, they want security for their children. But I feel like I was going and seeking approval from her. And it kind of left me in a situation to where I'm not even necessarily sure that like now that's what I want to do, but that's what I decided to major in, because I wanted her approval on what I was doing in school. And here I am, and that's just straight people pleasing. And the sixth sign is going to be avoiding conflict and avoiding confrontation. Maybe you just don't want to make people mad. Maybe you just want to be agreeable. Maybe you just want to be likable. You know what I'm saying? But wanting to be likable, wanting to always be agreeable, not wanting to ruffle any feathers is literally pleasing other people, especially if it's a situation in which you're uncomfortable. But because you want to avoid that conflict, you're just going to leave it alone and be uncomfortable. Or you know what I'm saying? Now you're just letting stuff slide, and you're letting people do whatever till you walk all over you because you want to avoid conflict and you don't want to speak up for yourself. I had this so bad. I actually had it even growing up as a kid, to the point where like my mom, she would get upset because she would just be like, speak up for yourself, or like talk louder, or like tell them what you want. Tell them that you don't like this. And I don't know, I was just so timid and I was just so scared. It's like speak up for myself, because I just wanted to be likable. I didn't want to be any problem. I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. I wanted to avoid conflict and uncomfortable situations at all costs. A perfect example of this actually is like, a time where like I'll go to the nail shop and I'm getting my nails done, and I literally see that like this nail tech, like you are not doing what I want, or like this does not look good. And like, instead of telling them like, hey, can you fix this? Because this is a service that I'm paying for. Instead of telling them, hey, can you fix that? Hey, I need you to do that over. I would just pay them my hard-earned money and walk away with something that I was not happy with because I wanted to avoid that conflict or because I wanted to avoid that confrontation or avoid an uncomfortable situation. And number 7 is going to be over explaining yourself or over apologizing for things. And first things first, you do not have to explain yourself at all. If you want to say no to something, you don't have to give anybody an explanation. Now, granted, depending on the people and the situation, you might want to give an explanation, just so people can understand where you're coming from, but you don't have to. It's not required. It's not something that you have to do. So if you're constantly over explaining yourself, that's because you want so badly for them to understand where you're coming from, because you are either worried about them being mad at you or looking at you a certain way or feeling a certain way about you saying no, when really you cannot control that. You can only control how you feel. So stop trying to over explain yourself and stop over apologizing. Like if you did something wrong or you did something to hurt somebody's feelings, apologize, of course, but don't overdo it. Don't go overboard, or don't keep bringing it up. Don't keep apologizing, because that just is a sign that you're overthinking about how somebody else feels about you all the time, and you trying to please that person, and you trying to change their perspective on you and to be happy with you and to have a good outlook on you all the time. And that's just not something that we should be doing, overthinking how somebody else feels about us. That will just feed into our people-pleasing tendencies. So yes, y'all, if y'all have any more signs that we can look out for in terms of people pleasing, because I'm only one person, and these are signs that I found in myself on my people pleasing journey, just let us know down in the comments. The more the merrier. Anything helps. As many things as we can look out for as possible helps, because everybody's signs are going to be different. Everybody is going to deal with people pleasing in a different way. And yeah, I think that would just be very helpful. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.